Hello everyone and welcome to this week's ITFC Unrestricted podcast. How are we all doing? Football is finally back. We're playing competitively again. It feels like a long time coming. Lots of things that I've been looking forward to are coming back. Alan Partridge podcast, that's going to be absolutely cracking. I can't wait to listen to that, and I'm not sure if it's all on there yet on Audible, but if it is, I'm going to binge listen my way through that. James Bond's new trailer, that looks fantastic. Big news, EastEnders coming back, so we're all happy about that. Oh, I haven't missed that. It's been terrible lockdown TV, but at least football's back now, and that's going to dominate our lives. So got a busy episode this week. We've got the full 2021 season preview a little bit later on, as well as our first competitive match against Bristol Rovers in the Carabao Cup to talk about. But we'll roll straight into the news, as there always is. There's a lot to talk about with Ipswich Town, so let's see what's been going on.
News team, assemble!
Right, Bank Holiday Monday. Hope you had a good one. It's a bit horrible weather. Always is on bank holidays, isn't it? So you got your vouchers news. So all of you that picked your vouchers, the club has taken delivery of the season ticket compensation vouchers and will provide an update in the coming weeks as to when they're going to be distributed. I know that was a worry a little nagging problem that many fans have. I think other podcasts made a bit of a bigger deal out of than I have, but I feel a bit sorry for the staff at the club. It's not really their fault. They've taken a lot of flack for something really out of their control, them themselves being on furlough and all the uncertainty I'm sure they've had in their lives, and then obviously whatever's going on with the printers, it's been difficult for them. So I'm sure they'll be communicating fairly swiftly and getting them out to you so you can spend them. So yeah, keep an eye out for more news on that. We also saw Armando Dobra. He's been called up to Albania's under-21s for their first European Championship qualifiers, meaning he'll miss Saturday's game against Bristol Rovers and the subsequent EFL Trophy game against Arsenal's under-21 on Tuesday. So I wouldn't rule out a first full international cap for Dobra this year. If he has a good year, if he's earned his place in the team, he can't get in the squad photo, but if he can get his place in the first team and nail it down, I wouldn't rule it out. Entirely possible. He could start for Albania's first team. Tuesday, here we go. Town turned down second bid from Crystal Palace for Flynn Downs. So it was 1.6 million bid this time. I think it was around 1 million before, thanks to Andrew, one of my regular listeners, for finding out what that first bid was around. Very ballsy from Crystal Palace, testing the water, seeing how much we value young Flynn. That's certainly a lot more than 1.6 million, I hope. But yeah, on the back of this, The Athletic reported that Downs has gone on to hand in a transfer request on the back of this bid to maybe try and force a move that he deserves. We've said Downs is an exceptional player, and it would be gutting to lose him, but I think we can all see that his future is far beyond where Ipswich Town currently lie in the football pyramid, and fair crack to him if he wants to go and move and get a Premier League move. I don't think any of us can hold that against him, but we'll see how this story goes. It may go a little bit quiet in the coming weeks. There's a development later on which may suggest otherwise, but I think Palace are probably just testing the water, seeing if they could get someone of high potential on a cheap deal. And they may inquire about some other targets before returning later in the window. So as for Flynn, is he irreplaceable? Certainly not. It hurts because he's a star performer and our midfield was vastly underperforming, and it has been for a long, long while. Trying to put a positive spin on this as hard as it can be. His departure could allow others to step up or get their opportunity if they've earned it. I'd love to see El Mazzuni be given more of a first team berth, and as sad as it is to see Flynn go, that may be the opening that he needs. We've got a lot of midfielders in there. Certainly most of them need to step their game up to Flynn's level, to say the least. But yeah, if that could open the door for El Mazzuni, then that may not be horrendous. As for Flynn, if he does go, I expect it to be between 2.5 mil to 4 million, I would say, which is a good fee for a player at this level. I think we said a couple of weeks ago, maybe even last week, that if he was to go for 4 million, that would be the third highest that's ever been paid for a midfielder in this division. And the names that we mentioned there, probably far and away better talents and bigger potentials than Flynn has, putting it bluntly. If the money is made available, don't laugh. You know what it's like. But I think we still need to thin out the squad, regardless of whether Flynn is moved on in that time. We could make way to help solve other issues that we've got. We're looking for that long-term centre half option. We're all craving it. Maybe Downs going and others may open the door and maybe give us a bit more balance and more quality as a unit, as opposed to having quality in certain areas and lacking in others. But we'll see what happens with young Flynn. Wednesday, iFollow details are released, so season ticket holders, make sure you sign up. You'll be getting your free games. I know that's a point of contention, I'm not going to go there. Via a promo code sent to you the day before the game to allow you to access each game. This only works for your home league games. Cup games and away league games aren't included. Home games covered by Sky, if they get selected, will be free to season ticket holders, but will not be available at iFollow for non-season ticket holders. So, like myself, a non-season ticket holder for this year, it'll be £10 per game. But in layman's terms, it is effectively a season ticket. So you get all your home games for free, and you have to pay the extra £10 for your cup and your away games. So it works exactly the same. Obviously, you're just not there. Keep an eye out for Sky coverage, because if an away game gets moved to Sky, then iFollow won't follow the game. Won't be available for season ticket holders or non-season ticket holders. So, yeah, keep an eye out on that. If we're going well, you know what happens. You get put on Sky a lot more. Thursday. So going on off the back of Tuesday's news, Paul Lambert comes out of hiding. It's been a funny old time the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen a lot of Mr. Lambert. There's a lot of speculation going on. Some people in the know apparently, but we'll leave that for the time being at least. So he's come out of hiding to talk about what's going on with young Flynn Downs. So he's revealed that he won't be involved against Bristol Rovers in the Carabao Cup. Stated that he's spoken to Flynn and told him to have a couple of days off, give him time to clear his head, and then he'll be back with the first team training. He spoke about it unsettling Flynn, but he stressed that the valuation that we have of Flynn is far and away above the amount that has been offered by Crystal Palace. But like I said, we'll have to see how this plays out. It could go quiet for a couple of weeks and come full circle and come back again, or this could speed things up very quickly, and who knows, Flynn Downs' days as an Ipswich Town player may well be numbered. Also on Thursday, fans in the stands. No, not quite yet, but you can purchase your very own cardboard cutout to feature in the crowd for Town's first game against Wigan. So for season ticket holders, you get £3 off. You get a promo code if you've received an email. Check your spam boxes; it might be in there. So it's £17 if you want to put your cardboard cutout in. £20 for non-season ticket holders. So we saw this a lot during Project Restart, and especially in the Bundesliga. There's plenty there, but yeah, I'm sure we'll see some interesting characters in the crowd. Try and be original. We've all seen who's popped up across the country and across the globe with this. But yeah, if you're gonna try and be funny, do something original, and who knows, you may end up on social media as a celebrity for your 15 minutes of fame. But on the back of that, we did have some news about fans going back. So the club outlined what's kind of going to be going on when fans do eventually get back into the stadiums. I highly recommend that season ticket holders in particular look at this article. It sort of gives you a little bit more of an insight as to what to expect when we're all back. Well, not all of us back, but when you guys go back to Portman Road. I'm not going to go through it all, as you can imagine, but there's a lot to still be decided and confirmed. But as expected, it's not just as simple as letting sort of 10% or eventually 30% back in. There's a lot to consider, I'm sure, and a lot the club's still got to work on. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much into that. But the club's making steps, and we may have a deadline in sight. I think it was October, the provisional date, but still a lot can change there. I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet, but it's positive to see the club are at least talking about it anyway. Friday, here we go. Friday press conferences are back. So Paul Lambert's first press conference of the season, pretty boring really, very much what you'd expect. So kind of going through what we already have done in the last few weeks. So pre-season again, Flynn Downs again, bit about last season. Stephen Ward joined him. He was the elected player to take up media duties this week. So the key points I kind of picked out was, obviously it's an Ipswich pre-season, so it wouldn't be a proper Ipswich pre-season without a load of injuries. So Caden Jackson and Vincent Young are going to miss the first game. There's obviously a few other knocks in there as well. Norwood is another one who's not 100%. I don't think he's going to feature either. Oh, it's just what we're used to, isn't it? We'll see how we line up when we talk about the game in a few moments' time. But yeah, it's just Ipswich pre-season, isn't it? We love an injury hit spell. The Flynn Downs thing had got a lot of people talking, a lot of people taking issue with Flynn refusing to play. And, do I agree with the decision? Probably not, but it's happened. It's not the first time this has ever happened in football, and it certainly won't be the last. That is modern football nowadays, and I don't hold any ill feelings towards Flynn. The lad deserves to play at the highest level. There's a lot of people being a little bit petty, saying he's only had one good season, but, if that's what you want to feel, be a bit bitter about it, then so be it. Whatever the outcome of this, I wish Flynn well, and part of me feels there's a little bit more going on than what we've been told, but we may never know for sure. But I wouldn't rule Flynn coming back into the first team picture and still being a Town player this season out of the equation just yet. Could quite easily happen. So yeah, don't burn your bridges quite yet. He's still a Town player for now, trying to remain optimistic, and who knows, come they close the window, he could still be with us. Even if he does go, he might come back on loan. So possibilities are endless. They always are with football. Another point that Lambert seemed to pick up, Marcus Evans being a little bit more involved. So we've obviously heard Evans is insistent on this attacking and fluent playing style that we're going to be playing this season, apparently. So to Lambert's credit, he sort of he's performed a very on-trend U-turn, competing in the U-turn World Championship, so it seems, with regards to his rotation and sticking with a formation. But he's got to stick to it. We'll see if he does. There's a lot of games coming up, so a lot of time for him to tinker as he did last year. Let's hope that's not the case. Going on the back of Bank Holiday Monday, the vouchers, you got your update. So Town fans can collect their vouchers from Wednesday the 9th of September. Any vouchers that aren't collected in person will be sent out in the post as soon as possible. I'm guessing this is because the vouchers can only be spent in person, can't they? I believe that's what the agreement was. So I'm guessing they're trying to kill two birds with one stone for probably quite a large chunk of people who are going to go down to the shop anyway and buy probably the new home shirt. Don't buy the away shirt, it's awful. So I guess that's why, but I can see there's probably a little bit of frustration, but I'm not going to talk about vouchers. That's not what we do over here. But yeah, so that's the news this week, guys. So we've got our first game. We'll roll straight into that, and then we'll have a little look at our first competitive game in the league against Wigan. We'll talk a little bit about the Arsenal EFL Trophy game, but I hope you feel the same as me and you're not really too bothered about how that goes. But yep, so let's see what happened on Saturday. Final score, Ipswich Town 3, Bristol Rovers 0, and Ipswich Town are through to the second round of the Carabao Cup. We're not used to saying that, are we? But yeah, fantastic result and a great way to open the season. We've had a good record on the opening day, I think. Brennan Woolley said on the coverage that it's we've won our opening game the last 7 years. So nice to keep that record going, and a really good team performance. What had I been telling you? It's only pre-season. Don't worry too much. And the work that they've done in pre-season, particularly with the system, was evident today. I thought really positive from Town. Everyone looked very lively. The 4-3-3 worked really well. I thought we supported Drinan, who had a fantastic game up front on his own in his debut. We supported him really well, not only from the wide areas but centrally as well. And we showed Bristol Rovers pretty much how the good teams showed us last year, how to play against a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back system with these wing backs. If you can use your full backs to bomb forward, and Stephen Ward and Luke Chambers filling in at right back, they really did that. That helped pin them wing backs back, and we had a lot of joy this afternoon, and I think we looked very comfortable. Not going to get too carried away. We'll go on to talk about Bristol Rovers a little bit later in the season preview, but they've gone through a lot of change. Obviously their main goal threat, Johnson Clark-Harris, has left them. So I thought really once we got that first goal, and certainly once the second one went in, the chances of them coming back looked really unlikely. But that's really what we wanted, wasn't it, guys? A positive start to the season. There's been a lot of negativity on social media and in general sort of surrounding the club, and I think we've sort of not being there, we've lost that feel of how things are going, and pre-season results, as much as I don't think they matter too much, they do have an impact, and we were really putting a little bit more pressure on us to win this game. But yeah, fantastic performance. Can't pick out anyone particularly who had a bad game, and I'm not going to look into it too much for negatives, but positive start and something to look forward to going on to. So obviously we said we'll talk about Arsenal and Wigan. So the Arsenal game, I'd expect quite a few players to keep their places, really. Obviously we spoke about Aaron Drinan, and he had a fantastic game, and I hope he gets another opportunity to show what he can do, and maybe that will stand him in good stead. I might have to find a recipe for some humble pie, because I kind of writ him off in the squad review, but yeah, time will tell with that one. And we'll look on to Wigan. So Wigan, again, there's a lot can change between now and next Sunday with that game being live on Sky, but they lost 3-2 to Fleetwood. I think they took the lead. They were winning 2-1 at one point. Joe Garner, our former striker, putting them ahead, but I'd expect us to really build on this performance, and hopefully another good performance in midweek will only help us go from strength to strength. So that's a weight off our shoulders, isn't it, guys? Really nice and relaxing, and enjoy that victory. Hopefully that'll be the first of many this season. So that'll do us for the news and all that's happened this week. So let's start for the main bulk of the video. We'll go into the season preview now then, guys. Right, it's the League One 2021 season preview time. So we'll run through all 23 teams that will be joining Ipswich this year in League One. Oh, it's horrible to say that. League One. So we'll go through them one by one. I'm going to leave Charlton and Wigan till the end. I'm recording most of this on Bank Holiday Monday, so a lot can change between now and when you're hearing this, to be honest. So they're facing some difficult times, and I hope they can get up and running for, a competitive season at least. We don't really want to see what happened last year with Bury and Bolton again. So hopefully Charlton and Wigan can resolve the issues which they find themselves in through, no fault of the fans, just poor ownership and the EFL letting them down again. So if there's any opposing fans listening to this, I apologise if I completely get anything wrong with your side. This is just my own research going off the back of last season, and all that's happened between the stoppage of the season and the start of this upcoming season. So if there's anything I get wrong, I do apologise. I try and be as accurate as I can. I've done my research, for the most part, but we all miss little things now and again. So like I said, we'll break down each team in turn and then see where Ipswich fit into that. And I'm going to do what all sort of podcasters seem to do, which is a full table prediction, which when we come to the end of the season, I'm sure we'll have a look at and see how wrong I was. So we'll start in alphabetical order. Accrington Stanley. Who are they? Well, they're an established League One club, you could say now. So all these positions obviously points per game finish, as the League One season last year was stopped, and that's how it's decided. So they finished 17th in League One. I've had the privilege of speaking to John Coleman on FNZ. That's a future 90+3 episode we've got, and fantastically run little club, Accrington, and more than deserving of being a League One club. Well run by Andy Holt, and they've got another season in League One to look forward to. So last year, obviously they had to deal with Billy Key announcing his retirement. They brought in Colby Bishop and Dion Charles from non-league level, and they did really well. More than put up a fight. I think towards the end of the season they were struggling a little bit with injuries and that squad depth, but a good season by all accounts. And yeah, they're well up and running and being an established League One club now. So playing against Town last year, we'll go through every team that we faced last year, how we did. So there's 1 win and 1 loss against Ipswich. So we went up to Accrington and we lost 2-0 on Sky, wasn't it? And then they came down to Portman Road and we absolutely tonked them. Was it 4-1? I think it was in the end. So yeah, I think survival's going to be the aim for them again. Obviously, their first year in League One was heavily financed by us. We bought Jackson and Donatian off them, which gave them a war chest to spend. But they've lost Jordan Clark, who's a really good player for them. He's stepped up to the league above. He's gone to Luton. And they're probably one of the clubs you look at where COVID probably really had a big effect on them. There's been a lot of probably players that they couldn't afford to keep. They've had to really assess their squad, where they are, and try and cover the cracks. Really, there's been a lot of loan signings coming in from clubs up higher in the pyramid. So yeah, I think they'll be happy with survival again next season. So we'll move on to the next team, AFC Wimbledon, 20th in League One last year. Glyn Hodges is the manager. He took over from Wally Downs. I think there was some controversy there, wasn't there, over a betting scandal. Hodges came in and they were basically fired by a loan signing of Marcus Fors from Brentford, and they battled well. We played them 1 draw and 1 loss against Town. We all remember the win we had against them. When things were looking rosy. We all remember Jackson's goal. A tough season ahead for them, I think. They were on the cusp of relegation last time. Obviously, Fors was a good goal scorer for them. They brought in Ollie Palmer from Crawley, who will be facing in the EFL Trophy. He's going to add a bit of a goal threat, but seems to be a changing of a guard. A lot of players who've been there for a while, Scott Wagstaff and Anthony Wordsworth, who we used to have, they've all moved on, and they're kind of bringing through a more younger breed, but they obviously aren't blessed with rich finances, so the salary cap will probably help them a little bit, but they're looking at players from lower down in the football pyramid to sort of rebuild their squad. Speaking of rebuilding, they're moving into their new stadium, so they're returning to Plough Lane. But yeah, I think it'd be a really tough year for Wimbledon. I think they probably will struggle. Next up is Blackpool, 13th in League One. So Neil Critchley took over from Simon Grayson. Obviously, they had David Dunn in the middle of that. Very much changing of the guard in this transfer window. A lot of players have gone out, and Critchley is now sort of moulding his squad as they go forward. Armand Nanduile, Luke Penning's favourite player, he's moved on, unfortunately. And that was sort of the basis of Simon Grayson's team. Obviously, I think he had a tough time there. Another bloke we've spoken to on FNZ, he had a tough time. Obviously, the Oyston era coming to an end of their ownership, and the new owner coming in, they're sort of now sort of changing into, having a bit of a refresh. They've brought in Keshi Anderson and Jerry Yates, who had a good year at Swindon at the league below. I think basically that ownership really played a part in their season, where Feeney and Nanduile were sort of firing them up, and they're well up in the promotion places when just before Christmas, but then it all sort of turned a bit sour, and Critchley came in just before the stoppage. He's got good links at Liverpool, being their former academy manager, so I think there'll be dark horses promotion. Whether they'll get there, I don't know. There's going to be a running theme through this. I'll see if you pick up on it by the end. But a side who are sort of in transition at the minute. Obviously, they beat us at Bloomfield Road and drew at Portman Road, so they gave us a tough test last year. Bristol Rovers, so we will have played them. We'll know a little bit more about them we did. We only played them once last year, and they beat us then as well. So Graham Coughlin was in charge. They were riding high when they beat us, but he left soon after, and Ben Garner came in for his first managerial role, and they sort of stuttered really for the rest of the season and dropped a little bit, finishing 14th in the end by points per game. Another squad who are they're moulding their squad. You know, Garner's having his squad. A lot of the old players who were with Graham Coughlin and previous managers are now gone. You look at Tony Craig, Sercombe, Ollie Clark have all moved on, and in comes Max Emmer, Jack Baldwin, Zane Westbrook. So he's sort of moulding his own squad. Their season, for me, though, is all going to depend on whether Johnson Clark-Harris stays. And as we saw a few days ago, when I'm speaking, Johnson Clark-Harris has moved to League One rivals Peterborough. So I really struggled to see where their goals come from, and that altered my predictions where I feel they're going to finish. You know, you need a top striker at this level, as we've seen. Goals obviously always win football games, and I think losing someone of the quality of Johnson Clark-Harris is going to have a really big effect on Bristol Rovers going forward. Burton Albion, so they finished 12th in League One with the points per game. Jake Buxton takes his first managerial job. So Nigel Clough was there last year, another fairly solid year for Nigel Clough. He's done well there. Obviously got him promoted previously when he was with Burton. So they had played in the Championship, but their second year, I believe it was, back at League One level. But he stepped aside during the COVID pandemic. I don't know whether that was a financial based decision or performance. That could be either way. But Jake Buxton, who was their centre half for the most part of last year, has now stepped into his first manager's role, and he's quickly snapped up a couple of players who Lincoln have released, part of their sort of the Cowley era. He's brought in Neil Erdley and Michael Bostwick. Very smart signings. You know, they're capable League One players, a bit like the players that we've signed, not particularly flashy or fancy, but they'll do a job at League One level. They've also brought Charles Vernham up from Grimsby, so he looks to be a hot prospect. Scott Fraser, though, has left. He was a big contributor for them last year. Again, another squad, a very small and combative squad. If they do have injuries, you do sort of worry if they're going to, you know, have the depth to really fight in this division. Lost to Town on both occasions, so the opening day, and then they got once again another team who got thumped down at Portman Road in the reverse game. I think mid-table will be a good sort of first season for Jake Buxton there. So skipping over Charlton, who will come to at the end. We've got Crewe Alexander, so promoted from League Two in second place. David Artell is their manager. From what I've heard, they play very positively, a nice attacking brand of football. Obviously, Crewe's got a notorious academy, very influential. You know, Dario Gradi was there for a number of years, and some fantastic players came through Crewe. An older guard that sort of they relied on to get them up seems to have moved on. So our former player Paul Green, he's moved on. Nicky Hunt was there, who's obviously had a good career at Bolton. They brought in some strikers, so they brought in Mikael Mandron and Zanzala have come in. I think they're just trying to get the goals that will keep them in the division. Some players to look out for them is Charlie Kirk and Perry and G, who's apparently better than Kane Vincent-Young, so he must be one hell of a right back. I think for them, a survival would be a good achievement for them. You know, obviously a good season last year, and from what I've heard, Artell's a very good coach, but you know, first season back at League One level for a little while. Survival's always got to be the aim. Doncaster Rovers, 9th in League One, points per game. So Darren Moore took over there. Sort of a mixed year. Lost John Marquis to Portsmouth. So always seemed to be lacking goals throughout most of the season. And they've lost Kieran Sadlier, who put up some good numbers from midfield. I think they'll be up there in the promotion races. They've still got a really solid core to their squad. I look at them in particularly. They've got Anderson at the back, Ben Whiteman in midfield. You know, there's still some really solid and high quality League One players in that squad. They brought in Okunbire from Shrewsbury. He didn't really feature much before lockdown and the season was stopped, but I think he could be a dangerous weapon with them. We only played them the once. It was a 0-0 draw, but yeah, there's a lot of sides in League One where you feel, the depth may come back to bite them, where Town have got a little bit more depth than a lot of the sides, but they could be up there. I think they probably will be fighting for promotion during the season. It's all dependent on injuries, though, I'd say. Fleetwood Town, the man who likes to do a lot of talking, Joey Barton, and quite rightly so. They finished 6th in League One, points per game. Steady work going on at Fleetwood. He's doing really well. Obviously, he's very vocal about everyone else as much as he is his own side. They were beaten heavily by Wycombe in the playoffs, though, which is inexcusable. I can't believe Wycombe went up, in all honesty. But I think they'll be up there again. They've recruited well. Camps has come in from Rochdale after he was released. Obviously, they've been linked with James Norwood. I don't think we'll probably see him end up there with salary cap restrictions, but they've got a good squad. Harry Suter not being back just yet, he may still end up there. Will be a big loss for them. So, and we had a tough time against them. We did beat them at Highbury Stadium. That was a narrow 1-0 win, but then they came down to Portman Road just before the season stopped and beat us. So, yeah, I fully expect Fleetwood to be up there again and Barton to continue his good work. Next team, Gillingham, so 10th in League One. Mr. Steve Evans. There's an odd rivalry, really, between Lambert and Evans, and sort of Gillingham. They like to get one over on us, really. They had the last laugh in the end. I think there's a little bit of beef between the Gillingham fans and the Town fans about what went on Boxing Day. Gillingham more within their rights to come and play how they did, and it was up to Town to put up a good performance, but we weren't playing well at that time. Gillingham were coming into some really good form, and ultimately they had the last laugh. As they said, they finished above us in the end. Started off a little bit slowly, but like I said, they turned into one of the form teams by the end of the season. Evans does what he does. He'll be gutted the Argos catalogue's gone, because he loves sort of having a mass overhaul. A lot of people coming in and coming out wherever Steve Evans seems to go. Losing their captain Max Emma will be a big one. I think they've still got an unresolved issue around Brandon Hanlon up front, so we'll see what happens there. But a lot of players to come in, so many to talk about. I can't list them all off, but I like Kyle Dempsey coming in from Fleetwood. They've got 2 Arsenal lads coming in on loan as well. So yeah, they'll be fighting, and I think they've built year on year, steadily got better. I think they could be a dark horse for promotion. I wouldn't rule them out. Against Town, we played them 3 times, obviously. They did beat us. There was a draw, and we beat them in the league away from home, and then beat them at home in the EFL Trophy. So yeah, there'll be a tough test, and we've got them again in the EFL Trophy. So another team to worry about in the promotion races. Hull City. So 24th in the Championship. Grant McCann is their manager. So obviously, haven't seen these last year. I've had to use a fellow Ipswich fan who knows his stuff about Championship football. Ben Bloom has sort of helped me fill my voids and knowledge of these teams that have come down from the Championship. So I believe McCann's on a 12-month rolling contract. So he's still there at the minute, and he's a fairly capable League One manager. I think he did okay at Peterborough before he moved on. I think he was at Doncaster as well before that. So yeah, he's done well there. Obviously not so well at Hull City, and they've been gutted really by, I don't really know what's going on with their ownership. It's been a very frosty relationship over the years with the Alam family, but they've lost Jared Bowen, Kamil Grzycki, Jackson Irvine, Eric Lehigh have all left. But there's some good players left, and they've had a fairly good transfer window as well. So Wilkes has signed on a permanent deal. Louis Coyle has come in. He was at Fleetwood. Josh Emmanuel, he's signed there. Greg Doherty, Richie Smallwood have all come in. And some of the players that were left behind, who decided who are still under contract with Hull City. You look at Tom Eaves and Josh McGuinness, George Honeyman. They're all capable League One players, and if McCann can get it right, I think, again, another team that could be well up there come the end of the season. Lincoln City, so 16th in League One, points per game. So Michael Appleton took over from the Cowleys. They went up to take over at Huddersfield. Sort of the steam sort of slightly ran out. I don't know if they were sort of coming to the end of their time with Lincoln, and they kind of felt that they needed to seek out that new challenge. Obviously took them on a terrific journey, as we know. But Appleton's come in, and a lot of the loyalists under the Cowley brothers, you look at Josh Vickers, Michael Bostwick, Neil Erdley, Jason Shackle, Lee Frecklington have all been let go, and they're now sort of aiming for this new attractive playing style, getting in more footballers, as you'd say, rather than sort of warriors and players that the Cowleys seem to prefer. But they had a big reliance on loans last year. Obviously Tyler Walker was terrific for them, and again there's many others that Appleton relied on. John Jules came in January, but they made some solid signings. I really like Adam Jackson and Liam Bridcut coming in on permanent deals, who are, again, probably far too good for League One. I feel probably another transitional year, but again, if teams start slowly and they build some momentum towards the end, they could be well up there. So 1 win and 1 loss against Town last year. Obviously they beat us 5-3 at Sincil Bank, but we beat them 1-0 at Portman Road just after Christmas, I think it was. So fairly evenly matched with them, and obviously we've had a few tussles with them in the cups over the years as well. So that's Lincoln City. Milton Keynes, Dons, Russell Martin, his first managerial job. So they finished 19th in League One with points per game. Paul Tisdale was there at the start. He's quite a renowned League Two manager, spent all those years at Exeter, but didn't quite work out with Milton Keynes Dons. Obviously Martin was a player there during that season, but he took over as partly through the season, and they had a little bit of resurgence. Seemed to have a few favours from his ex-employers, and that's carried on. We've got Carlton Morrison and Louis Thompson have come in again, but he's lost some key players as well. So McGrandles has gone to Lincoln City, who we just mentioned. Reece Healy's gone to France, and Alex Gilby's gone to Charlton. Obviously the big name that's come in is Richard Keogh, who Town were linked with. Proof's in the pudding really with him, whether he'll be able to recapture his form, but that's a good signing. I think they've got to look for survival. We know it's aside Martin sort of building himself using what he had before. Obviously we didn't play them twice. We only played them the once, and we beat them at Stadium MK. I think we took 3,000 on that Tuesday night, wasn't it? So that was when all things were going rosy. So yep, that's MK Dons. Northampton Town, 7th in League Two, points per game, obviously promoted through the playoffs. Plenty of plaudits during that playoff run as well. I think they were lauded over for their playing style under Keith Curl. Mysterious Curl, I think they call him. To Peter Andre's song. That was one of the songs that I've heard when he was at Carlisle, I think it was. But they've had some big names leave them. Obviously we picked up David Cornell. Charlie Good's gone to Brentford. Van Dane Oliver is one of the many names to join Gillingham. And I think a load of others have moved on. So, again, a little bit of transition for them. Joe Mills was a good pickup from Forest Green Rovers. But, again, I think they could spring a few surprises. But another side, you'd think, really, they got to be looking to survive before anything else in a League One season. Oxford United. So, 4th in League One, points per game. Cole Robinson done a fantastic job there. Unfortunately beaten in the playoff final, but they play some lovely stuff. And to think they lost Tariq Fosu and Shannon Baptiste in January, that didn't really slow them down. Really classy players in that squad. I look at James Henry, Cameron Brannigan. They picked up some good loanies as well. Marcus Brown from West Ham came in, and have been really active in the transfer window as well. So Matt Taylor's rejoined them. He was there on loan, I believe it was, and he's a top-class League One striker. Liam Kelly, he was at Reading. I think he went to Holland under Yapstam, but he's come back. Really good centre mid. And Sean Clare's come in as well from Hearts. Some really solid signings. Rob Dickey could still go, but if he stays, you'd think, even if he was to go, I think they'd they'd probably be well up there. And for me, I'll do a little bit of a spoiler, but they're my title favourites for this year. I think they could quite easily storm the league. And we weren't able to beat them last year. They beat us at Portman Road, and there was that 0-0 draw in that absolute monsoon of a game that I'm surprised still carried on. Peterborough, 7th in League One, points per game. So missed out on the playoffs again, but obviously one of the teams that were pushing for the season to carry on. Darren Ferguson in charge there, and they started a little bit sluggish last year, but once they got going, Christ, they were absolutely lethal. But that deadly attack's been broken up. Obviously, we've seen Ivan Toney, as I'm recording this on the day, he's gone to Brentford. They brought in Johnson Clark-Harris, as we mentioned. Sammy Smodics, there's still questions whether he's going to come back or if he'll be at Bristol City next year. But, they've got plenty of talent left in that squad. You look at Dembele, Issa, they bought Taylor from Barnet. There's plenty of good players left around at Peterborough, and we all know what Darren McAnthony's like. He's always got a trick up his sleeve, and a lot was made about them releasing their squad. I think they're trying to send a message to the rest of the league that they're up and ready. They believe in this squad, but that question mark was still there in that final spot. Who's going to fill in that role, and whether that is Schmodics, we'll wait and find out. Ryan Broom and Johnson Clark-Harris coming in. Probably a little bit of a downgrade on Marcus Maddison and Toney, but you'd think they'd be up there again. Again, another side we didn't beat last year. One win and one draw against Ipswich, so 2-2 at London Road, and then they absolutely tonked us at Portman Road, which a game I've probably talked about far too much in my short time on this podcast already. Plymouth Argyle always reminds me of that Aviva advert. I love that advert.
It cost a fortune supporting Plymouth Argyle. Newcastle away today.
And they've got one of those long trips to come up to Sunderland. So
that's a long old poke, isn't it?
Yep, they finished third in League Two last year. Ryan Lowe, and another promotion for him. So he was there to get Bury up before, obviously they had to be expelled from the division. And he's, by all accounts, a really good League Two manager, and I'd like to see how he cuts his teeth at League One level. They play really attacking football, and he's not afraid to take risks. I don't think they've lost a few players who were key to him last year. Sarcevic has dropped down a level, I believe, and Alex Palmer, who was their goalkeeper, he's gone back to his parent club. But brought in some smart signings. I think it's Pantouche Kamara's come in. He's a good player, and Lewis McAloyd he was at Wigan. We'll go on to talk about them a bit later on. He's a really good player and a hot prospect at the time. I think he joined Brentford a few years ago under Warburton, and he was really good there. Frank Nouble is another player who they brought in. So Nouble makes his return. He'll be up for it, playing against Ipswich again. But I think another season of survival for a promoted side. I think they're probably, out of them and Swindon, you'd probably say they're probably the two best sides to come up, and they'll probably be the most likely to survive, if you ask me. Portsmouth, 5th in League One, points per game. Kenny Jackett, so yet another year in League One, beaten by Oxford in the playoffs on penalties. A lot of discontent at Portsmouth. I think we're in the same boat, really. A lot of people not really happy that Kenny Jackett is still there. I think he's a little bit of a, maybe a bit pragmatic for what they want, and maybe they're getting a little bit impatient that they're not in the Championship right now. Very similar to us, I'd say. A side with a lot of quality that just needs to be used a lot better. So Burgess has gone out and Raggett's come in. He was obviously there on loan last year. Brett Pittman's left. Obviously, we know Ollie Hawkins has left as well. Curtis is still there at the minute. Probably one of the best players in League One. And you look across their squad. I look at Tom Naylor, Ben Close, Andy Cannon. There's still a lot of quality. Obviously, John Marquis, another quality League One player. They've got to be right up there. And if Jackett can maybe just get it right this year, they will be. They beat Town. We only played them the once. That was down at Fratton Park. Another one of those 1-0 defeats, I believe it was. So, yep, that's Pompey. Rochdale, 18th in League One points per game. Now, it's not looking good for Rochdale, I'm afraid. They've lost a lot of key players. Ian Henderson, who was basically Mr. Rochdale, kept them up for a number of years with his goals. Callum Camps, as we mentioned, has gone to Fleetwood. Luke Matheson, 16-year-old, he's moved to Wolves. Norrington Davis, who had a good year, is gone. I think Williams has gone as well to Blackpool. For me, I can't see anything other than relegation for Rochdale unless they have a mass influx or find a diamond in the rough. It's going to be a really tough year for them. Another side we only played the once. We went up to there. I think was it Bonfire Night? It was around that time. There's fireworks going on before that game, at least anyway. And Town getting a win, a narrow win up there as well. Shrewsbury Town, 15th in League One points per game. Sam Ricketts, they're plodding along, under Sam Ricketts, but I think the fans are getting a little bit impatient with him. He's very, very pragmatic manager. They had a memorable cup run, and there's a lot of quality in that squad still. It's just whether Ricketts can extract it. I look at Jason Cummins, Oliver Norburn, Aaron Pierre. There's some good players in there, but just doesn't seem to get the most out of them. Josh Laurent, who was a good player for them, he's moved on. He's gone up to Reading, I believe. Another team we only played once, and we thumped them 3-0 at Portland Road. Looked very, very comfortable. Obviously, they went down to 10 men, but Town looked fairly comfortable. I think Ricketts is, like I said, he's a bit cautious, and I think the squad's probably got the quality to push for the top half, but just depends if Ricketts sort of lets loose and can get the best out of him. Sunderland, the big boys. So obviously Jack Ross was there at the start of the season, but he was replaced by Phil Parkinson. They finished 8th in League One points per game. Probably a bit unlucky. I'd say if the season had carried on, they would have probably ended up in the playoffs at the very least. So I don't know. Are we getting a Sunderland Till I Die season 3? I'm not sure. I don't know if they've said anything about that. Yeah, obviously they started slowly, and even under Parkinson, it took a little bit of time, but really picked up as the season went on. They've got some great players. Chris Maguire is always the one that stands out for me. Terrific player at this level. Very similar to us in regards to the salary cap. I think they're struggling a little bit to bring in the quality that they're looking for. Obviously, they've been linked with Garbett, but I don't know if they can afford them like we seemingly can't at the minute. John McLaughlin's gone. Remy Matthews, who was training with us, has gone to them to fill in goalkeeper. Bailey Wright and Aidan O'Brien come in, dropping down from the Championship. Wright was there on loan last year, but some good signings there. I feel it's, if they're a bit like us, if they don't go up now, it'll be a really difficult time for them. 1 win and 1 draw against Town, so we lost to them 1-0 at the Stadium of Light. That was absolutely freezing, that game. Good weekend, just not the football. And then we had obviously the draw at the start of the season, which was obviously marred by that Chambers mistake. But I'd expect Sunderland to definitely be up there this season. Swindon Town. So a lot of ex-Ipswich interest in this team. So they were first in League 2 with points per game. Our ex-Loney midfielder Richie Wellens is in charge, and Paul Jewell is director of football at Swindon as well. Had a really good season. They were banging in the goals, but unfortunately for them, the men who've been bagging them the goals have moved on. So Owen Doyle's took that sort of big contract down at Bolton. Jerry Yates and Anderson have moved on. They've gone to Blackpool. So that's 30 goals from their team last year gone in an instant. So going to be really difficult for them. They've made some good signings, but you'd say they're probably a bit inexperienced. So Tyler Smith, who was at Bristol Rovers last year from Sheffield United's coming on loan. Matt Smith's come in on loan from Arsenal, I believe. I think there's 2 Matt Smiths bounded about. There's one who's at Man City and one at Arsenal. I might have got that wrong. And Jack Payne's come from Lincoln. Tough season ahead, and I think, again, a bit like Plymouth, probably could spring a few surprises, but will be tough. So we'll go back to the final 2 teams joining us from the Championship, which is Charlton and Wigan, and there's so much to go through here. It seems to be changing by the day. As I said with Hull, Ben Bloom has been my font of knowledge here, and I highly recommend going to watch his videos about what's going on with Wigan and Charlton, especially last season, because it paints a bigger picture. And there's been so much that's gone on, it's hard to summarise really. But we'll start off with Charlton. So 22nd in the Championship last year. Lee Bowyer is their manager, and what a fantastic manager he is. I think he's really their biggest asset, and the longer they keep Lee Bowyer on board, the better they will do. We spoke to Darren Prattley on FNZ as well, so very experienced head in that team, and he sort of alluded to sort of some of the things that were going on. It was very, very confusing. They didn't really know who is in charge, and I think that's still rumbling on. But last year they had a difficult year in the Championship. There was a lot going on there. They had a really bad spell of injuries, which cost them quite dearly around sort of Christmas time, I believe that was. And then when the season was stopped, there was also the controversy around Lyle Taylor and Chris Solly not wanting to play because it potentially damages their future prospects. So that made it a little bit difficult for them, and I think they just didn't quite have enough in the end. They weren't far away, but obviously these factors considered, along with everything else that was going on behind the scenes, very difficult. But they've brought some players in. I think they were under an embargo during January last year, and I think they've been allowed to sign players. So they brought in Gilby from MK Dons, and Connor Washington, who we were linked with, I think, at one point. He's come down from Hearts. So yeah, Washington and Macaulay Bonne, who's stepped up from where Lyle Taylor's left. It's a decent front two, but still a lot of gaps to be filled, and they'll have a busy run up until the deadline, you feel. But as I said, the longer Bowyer stays there, I think the better they will do. But it's really hard to predict how they are going to do. And as for Wigan, exactly the same with them. Obviously, we don't even know who their manager's going to be. I think they've got Liam Richardson, who's there at the minute. He was assistant with Paul Cook, but I think there's talk of Daniel Stendhal going in there if a certain owner comes in. But they've had an absolute fire sale of players, and you look at the players who were there, you can see why they finished 13th in the Championship before their minus 12 points deduction. I could go through them all, but all of them have gone back up to the Championship by about two, I think, who've one's gone on loan and one's joined Peterborough, I believe it was. But just shows how unfortunate they were. But at the minute, it's really hard to judge where they are. I think Joe Garner and Moorseed, and they've got some good players still there, but a lot of gaps to be filled. And another team like Charlton, who are going to be working right up to the deadline, you feel, especially when these new owners come in to build a squad. So hard to predict really where they're going to finish as well. So that's all 23 teams that will be joining us. So what does that mean for Ipswich then? So I mentioned a running theme for you there, and for me it's change. There's a lot of turmoil going on, particularly at the relegated clubs, and through no fault of their own, two of them are really struggling at the start of the season, which is Wigan and Charlton, as we just mentioned. And then Hull have always sort of been a little bit fractious with their owners as well. But then, there's been a lot of change, particularly with COVID. I think a lot of players have had to be released by teams, and a lot of these managers who took jobs last year partway through the season are still shaping their squad. So I would have said that, a couple of weeks ago, Town were probably looking in a good position. Had Lambert, seemingly he's looking to address the problems and learnt his lessons from last season. But there's been so much going on the last couple of weeks in particular, and the whole vibe around the club. I'm not really sure how we're going to start really, but we were actually fairly settled. We had a lot of change in our squad. We've still got a very good squad, as I said in the squad review episode. But yeah, I don't really know where we fit into that at the minute. And I think for Ipswich, we need to judge Lambert and up to a point. And if he's not performing, unfortunately, I think we need to make the change. I think probably the vast majority of us are very surprised Paul Lambert is still here. But, I think there was a lot going up into this weekend, and a lot of people wanted him gone before the start of the season, which, yeah, maybe, but I don't think, why would you let him get this far into pre-season if you're only going to sack him a couple of days before the season starts? You might as well go with it now. And we saw last year that, you don't have to be fantastic for, the whole season in League One. If you have a good run, and a new manager can always do that, you can easily get promoted. So I think for me, we need to judge Lambert up to, I think it's Lincoln away, which is our 9th game. I always compare to Jack Ross last year. He got 10 games at Sunderland before that they made the change, and they probably could have still, before the season was stopped, they could have easily gone up under Phil Parkinson. And there's a lot of good managers around at the minute. Paul Cook is quite a popular one that people would happily have replace Paul Lambert. But you look at elsewhere as well. Who have we got? Danny Cowley, Lee Johnson, who've left jobs in the league above. Nigel Adkins has been out of work for a little while. Simon Grayson, maybe not the most popular choice. Nigel Clough, who was at Burton. Daniel Stendhal, who had success at Barnsley before moving up to Hearts. So there's plenty of options out there, and I think that would be probably the ideal time to make the change if we're going to do it, because we have that really hard spell in November, early December. But there's a break in there beforehand. You could probably unfortunately give Steve Evans a free hit in the game. I think it's after the Lincoln game. And then you've got Crewe in there as well before going to Sunderland. But that should give the manager enough time to, maybe find out a little bit more about his squad and work out what he's going to try and do. But yeah, I think we'll go on to the league table now, but we'll see where Town fit into there. But yeah, we're a bit uncertain now. I was fairly happy if Lambert had learnt his lessons, that we could maybe surprise a few people, but at the minute we don't know, unfortunately. So let's go through the league table and see where I've put Town. Remind me to keep hold of this table so we can all have a good laugh at the end of the season when I've got this completely and utterly wrong. But we'll go through all the teams. I'm not going to go into too much detail, just a little line why I think they're around that position in the table. But we'll start at the bottom. So 24th, Rochdale. Like I said, they've lost so many players. Northampton, again, another side to lose quite a key part of their squad. I think they'll struggle, unfortunately. MK Dons, 22nd. Again, they've lost some really key players there, and it's always nice to send Russell Martin down. 21st, AFC Wimbledon. Again, I think they were kind of helped by having Marcus Fors there last year, but yeah, I think they'll struggle this year, unfortunately. 20th, we've got Accrington Stanley. Sorry, John, if you're listening. I know we got on quite well on the FNZ show, but yeah, hopefully they'll stay up. I really like Accrington, and it's quite a nice little away day if you haven't been up there. Obviously, we haven't had much luck up there either, but yeah, it's a nice away day. 19th, we've got Crewe. So I think they'll just struggle a little bit, a little bit of an inexperienced squad, and, that playing style might not always work at the step above. 18th, we've got Wigan. So they could be anywhere. They could be in the bottom four as well. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt with some of the players they've got there at the minute. And if they turn things around, the facilities they've got, they should be able to get themselves out. Now, from 17th to about 10th, these teams could finish anywhere. It's all sort of very close between 3 points. So 17th, we've got Shrewsbury, not fully convinced by Sam Ricketts there. 16th, we've got Bristol Rovers, again not convinced by their manager, and obviously they lost Clark Harris, that's a lot of goals.
Green or red?
In 15th, Plymouth Argyle. I think Ryan Lowe's a fairly good manager, should have an alright year, I think. 14th is Burton Albion, Jake Buxton in his first year, probably going to carry on what Nigel Clough was doing there, but depth is always a bit of an issue with them. 13th, Richie Welland, Swindon. I think they've made some all right signings. They might be the surprise team this season, but no higher than 13th for me. 12th, we've got Lincoln City. Appleton's a good manager, sort of knows what he's doing there. Just a little bit of a rebuild going on there. 11th, we've got Charlton Athletic. So again, like I said, the longer they keep Bowyer, the better they'll do. 10th, we've got Doncaster. Again, Darren Moore does well. Fairly solid League One side, but probably not quite enough to get them into the playoffs. Ninth, got Hull City. Again, good squad. Not fully convinced by McCann, but I think he'll get them fairly close, but they'll be in the hunt probably right to the end. 8th, Steve Evans at Gillingham. So our friends at Gills and the Bad, I think they've got them exactly the same place. But yeah, still building on their slow progress, but they'll be fighting for the playoffs, I'm sure. 7th, got Blackpool. Again, a lot of change going in there, a lot of exciting players coming in, but I think maybe they'll take a little bit longer to gel and might just miss out. 6th position, Ipswich Town. So, yep, just scraping into the playoffs. That's as optimistic as I can be at this moment in time, and I think that's purely on the basis that a new manager does come in and we get a good run, and maybe, fingers crossed, they get a good run towards the end of the season, and that ultimately takes us up. 5th position, Fleetwood Town. I think Joe Barton will do another good year there. They've made some good signings. 4th, we've got Peterborough United. I think a lot of people got them a bit higher, but I think they've had a bit of a downgrade on Tony and Maddison with the players they've brought in. So probably just another year of fighting in the playoffs. They'll actually get in this year. They've missed out the last couple of years. 3rd, we've got Sunderland. So yeah, not quite for Phil Parkinson, but well up there, and a significant improvement on the last season, to say the least. 2nd, Portsmouth. So Kenny Jackett finally gets it done. Whether he'll stay in the job, I don't know. That might be, again, another job where you look at another manager coming in and getting them promoted. Top of the table, as I spoiled earlier, was Oxford United. I think they were fantastic last year. Even the players that they lost, I think they'll go on stronger and stronger and eventually get up this year. So yeah, 6th position for Ipswich Town. Like I said, as optimistic as I can be, but yeah, we'll see how wrong I am at the end of the season. But fingers crossed, like I said, we get that managerial change if it's not going well, and that puts us in good stead for a late run into the playoffs. So that's our season preview, guys. I hope you enjoyed. And I know that might not be for everyone. Not everyone cares about the rest of the league, but I think it's better the devil sometimes, and we'll try and do a little fact file before each match weekend, the opponents we're going to face, and talk a little bit about how much they've changed from my predictions and how they've been getting on, really. So yep, that's the season preview, guys. Hope you enjoyed. So that'll do us this week, guys. Thank you very much for listening or watching wherever you are on whatever platform. I know another long episode. We've done a few, but we'll try and nail the formula now. There's a lot of games to be talking about coming up. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to talk about the Wigan game because with the magic that goes behind this, unlikely I'll be able to get to our 6 p.m. release time, with the game on Sunday, but we'll try and do something a little bit different. I should be meeting up with some of my old fan zone mates to watch the game, so yeah, we'll might do something with them. We'll wait and see. Watch this space. But yeah, speaking of fan zone, FNZ, we've got our Monday night show, so that's always something to look forward to. Maybe a little bit more broader look at the footballing world, and our 90+3 player interviews. We've got Ricky Ravenhill, so some of you may know him. He was at Notts County and Bradford. And then the week after, I wasn't on this one, and don't blame me, blame Mark Tuxford. He got an interview with Chris Doig. So yeah, our infamous assistant manager under Paul Hurst. I'm sure there's been an interesting chat in there as well. I'm not sure how much they went into Ipswich, but yeah, check that out as well. But yeah, thank you for listening, guys, and I'll speak to you next week.